later, Austin. It's our fantastic opera baby getting us around the cemetery safely today. Before we depart, a few important notes about both the cemetery and the tour. Arlington National Cemetery is not only one of America's most hallowed grounds, but is still an active military cemetery. We have up to 10 funeral services any given Saturday, up to 30 any given Monday through Friday, with Sundays and federal holidays generally being our only exception. What this means for our tour is that if we do run across one of these ongoing funeral services, processions, or transfers, everything stops. I will certainly stop my narration. Our driver may have to momentarily stop the vehicle, which can cause slight delays, as well as stop closures throughout the day. And these ongoing funeral services, processions, or transfers are the one thing here in the cemetery we do not photograph or video, out of respect for our fallen service member and their family. Thank you all so much for your respect and understanding. Now for our tour, the first stop today will be President John F. Kennedy's family gravesite with the eternal flame. Our second stop will be the United States Coast Guard Memorial. Our third stop, General of the Army's General John J. Pershing's gravesite. Our fourth stop will be the Memorial Amphitheater. We'll catch the changing of the guard ceremony at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And our final stop will be the historic Arlington House, which has the Robert E. Lee Museum, the formerly enslaved People's Quarters Museums, as well as a fantastic view of both the cemetery and D.C. from our highest point. It's a great place to get some pictures from. Then we'll take you back down here to the Welcome Center. The way the tour works, it is a hop-on tour, so any of our stops, feel free to stay on board or disembark, see the sights, get some pictures. Another overhead tram or a close phone to depart here from the Welcome Center every 10 to 20 minutes to pick you back up to continue your tour. Just make sure you keep your tickets on you. That's your pass to board the vehicle. And if you are worried about losing the physical copy of your ticket, a picture on your cell phone works just as well. I would like to thank you all so much for joining us today. Our scheduled departure is here in a few short moments.
We're just gonna talk about something different when we're at the Flames, not to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. You can keep your hands on your cane.
Exercise caution. Vehicles now in motion. Complete safety rules as we depart. Please remain seated when the vehicle is in motion. If things objects and upward, take time to vehicle at all times. Please always ensure smoking cessation of water. Once again on the way to our And if we keep on the passenger side, you'll start to see a large red archway coming to view. Now this is the McClellan Gate. It served as one of the original entrances to Arlington National Cemetery. And next by Union Civil War General George B. McClellan. Now he had the distinct honor of being hired twice by President Abraham Lincoln. And fired twice by President Abraham Lincoln. You liked it that much? It's made out of the same red sandstone you'd find at the Smithsonian Castle. And mentioning General McClellan does take us back to the Civil War and to the start of Arlington National Cemetery. The first 200 acres of this cemetery would be taken for use as a military cemetery during the Civil War, with other cemeteries around the Washington Basin unable to keep up with the pace of the mounting Civil War dead, as this was an unprecedented loss of life for our young nation, with to this day the Civil War having the largest amount of American casualties of any one singular conflict. And from the Civil War to something a little bit closer to the day on the driver's side, as we pass the end of section 59 and begin to see section 60. Now section 60 is one of several sections which does have a nickname. Section 60 often being called America's Saddest Acre, with many of our service members from most recent conflicts laid to rest in this and neighboring sections. And as we gaze across section 60, it is around here we will find the largest variety of religious symbols displayed on those standard markers, with in recent years the Department of Defense authorizing well over 60 forms of religious symbols for our service members to best represent their religious beliefs. Now turning our attention to the passenger side, there are also grave markers of various shapes, sizes, colors, and material. These are privately funded grave markers paid for by families, friends, or associations, with these styles of grave marker no longer installed here in the cemetery as of 2017 due to space and maintenance concerns. Here on the driver's side, now seeing section 25, and keep a close eye out 2 or 3 rows back. We'll see one of those standard markers with gold lettering for Sergeant Henry Johnson. He was often called around the time of the First World War the Black Death. A member of the Harlem Hellfighters during the First World War, Sergeant Johnson would become wounded during the fighting, but it was despite his wounds in which he would engage the enemy in hand-to-hand combat. It is for his bravery and courage displayed during the First World War that Sergeant Johnson would be awarded the Croix de Guerre by the French government, and much later the Medal of Honor by the United States. Now I do have some time to talk a little bit about our first stop, President John F. Kennedy's family gravesite. About 8 months prior to his assassination, President Kennedy would pay a surprise visit to Arlington National Cemetery, given a tour of the historic Arlington House, and the stunning view of the cemetery you can catch from our highest point. It was here when he would famously remark to a National Park Services ranger, "It is, I quote, so beautiful, I could stay here forever." This would reportedly play a small part in then First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy's decision to have him interred here instead of their family plot in Brookline, Massachusetts. Now turning our attention to the passenger side as we begin to see section 12. This is the final resting place of Gunnery Sergeant John Barcelona, Medal of Honor recipient during World War II, and he would return
Back
home
around that
to a
corner is the
hero's
tomb of the unknown
welcome,
soldier.
even featured in Life magazine. But he would request to be sent back to the fighting to continue leading his men. He would tragically lose his life on the first day of the Battle of Iwo Jima, and be awarded the Navy Cross for his further heroism. Now also in section 12 are the final resting places of the Nakashima brothers. members of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the most decorated regimental combat team in U.S. Army history for its size and strength, earning over 18,000 personal commendations, of which over 9,000 were Purple Hearts, over 5,000 Bronze Stars, made up almost entirely of Japanese Americans during the Second World War. Many of their families would be kept in internment camps for the duration of this conflict. However, it was despite this great injustice that the members of the 442nd would certainly follow their unit's motto, which is Go for Broke. Now we are approaching our first stop of the day, President John F. Kennedy's family gravesite with the eternal flame. We can also find the final resting place of his wife and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, their two infant children, Patricia Kennedy and their stillborn daughter, with the eternal flame symbolizing his guiding light during his presidency. Now, if this is your stop, please wait until we have done with full and complete stop. If you would like to visit the President Kennedy family gravesite, simply follow the road seen here on the passenger side back, making the first left-hand turn, and following that road up to the low gray wall. You'll find ramps and steps leading to President Kennedy. You'll simply return to the statue of a man on a horse directly in front of us to be picked back up. Transit trolleys departing every 10 to 20 minutes to resume your tour.
We're gonna go look at something for a moment. Nationals. I have to see if there's a reason that we are able to look at something for a moment if I do about it.